And welcome back, everybody. This is Aligning with Success. I'm Mike DiMuccio, your host, Royal Diamond Nikan consultant. We were just talking about incentives and some of the incentives that are happening right now, both in North America, Latin America, and Europe. Some really great opportunities to take advantage of incentives. And I think that the incentives redirect or reshape our focus. But what we attract is always based, I believe, and I'm more convinced than ever, on what we host. I call it host in our field, in our vibration. I just finished a book called Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer. I purchased 10 more because I'm going to be giving these things out like cookies. Just one of my favorite authors, lecturers, actually, I want to see him live. And I think, Maggie, you saw him recently, Gregg Braden, who, in my opinion, is probably the closest person I've seen to me that actually mixes science and theology and the concepts of law of attraction, etc., all into one. He's a researcher of epic proportions and an author of, I guess, about a dozen or so books and lecturer, and he's been doing this since the early 80s, traveling around the world, and what an amazing personal experience this guy's had. But this book in particular caught my eye. Well, it was a gift from the group in the UK, and I really appreciate it because he is somebody I read, and I have other books that I've read of his. But years ago, I was introduced to him as an author, and I saw a video online called, actually, if you look it up on YouTube, Curing Cancer. Just type in his name, Gregg Braden, B-R-A-D-E-N, Curing Cancer. You'll see about a 14-minute segment on YouTube. And it's one segment of a lecture that he did in Milan, Italy, a couple years ago, I think it was. And in this segment, he features a video, and he explains what you're going to see. He shows it, and then he explains again what you've just seen in terms of real-time application of the law. And what you witness in this video is a 3-inch diameter tumor in a woman's bladder disappear. You see it happening as it fades into nothing, using an ultrasound device to image what you're seeing in real time as these practitioners in China practice the lost art of prayer. And the West has disconnected on a very real level to what prayer really is about. Today, it just, for the most part, repeating words on a page. But what if those words on the page were actually designed specifically to invoke a feeling? That the words were meaningless by themselves, but that by the fact that they invoke a feeling within our being, it is the feeling itself that ultimately creates the consequence. He quotes a study that was done, I think I've quoted this before, a study that was done twice now, where they had practitioners practice the prayer of peace. Again, once we understand what we really mean by the word prayer. And they were on a clock. They were supposed to do this with certain frequency, and they were able to do this. And while they were doing this, the statisticians were monitoring the frequency of hospital emergency cases, violent crimes, just a whole list of things that they were actually monitoring. And the rate dropped by 70% in all the areas affected by this lost mode of prayer. And they did this twice. So it was a statistical affirmation or confirmation that a significant statistic that proves that there is a correlation with respect to what we are hosting within the frequency of our vibration, within our feeling, and the actual physical world we live in, how it actually manifests physical reality and measurable. And even though the people may appear to be completely operating independently of us, people we don't know who may or may not have been committing crimes that day, nonetheless, they are affected. So again, the idea that everything is connected by this universal consciousness, this field of consciousness, this mind of God, if you will, and that everything we experience is a mirror or reflection within the mind of God, mirrored by us, reflected back to us, by us, that which we are outputting, which is why there's so many different outputs, so many different experiences on the same planet, because each one of us is creating a different mirrored effect. In any event, why I think this is so critical in the life and times of a Nikan consultant is because what we are experiencing, and I'll give you an example in real practical terms. Let's say I say to you, here's the perfect script for contacting and inviting somebody to a Nikan event. And you have the perfect script in writing. You have it right there in front of you. And part of it is to say, you know, I'm so excited about inviting you to this upcoming event. And so you say the words, I'm so excited about you coming to this upcoming event. Now you could say the words all day long. You could say the perfect words, our Father who art in heaven. You could say the perfect words all day long and have absolutely no desired outcome. In other words, you will have an outcome, it's just not desired. So it's not the words, is it? It's the emotion that we put into those words, or the emotion that those words invoke within us and others, that actually creates the impact that we're looking for. So the idea that feeling is the prayer is very real. The words themselves can actually have the opposite effect. In fact, in this book, it describes how one of the prayers, and I offered this one last week, was a prayer for rain. And when he, and notice I used the word prayer for rain, and I did that on purpose because when he questions the person who was doing the actual prayer, I'm just going to mute that line, it's interfering. When he questions the person doing the prayer, he says, I thought you were going to pray for rain. He says, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. That'll never cause rain. If you pray for something, you're giving credit to, or you're acknowledging the fact that it doesn't exist. That by nature, therefore, is what you're going to mirror. You're putting into the field of energy the idea that it doesn't exist when you pray for something to emerge, something to come into your life. But to pray rain is a very different thing. That is, and so he says, so I don't know, I was expecting chanting, dancing, words, something. I was expecting something. And this was a native Indian that he was expecting this from. And the person said, so he said, well, what exactly were you doing when you were doing that? And he describes what he was doing. He said, I was simply feeling the rain falling on my head. I felt the mud between my toes as it filled the valley, and my feet were in the mud. I smelt the rain off the buildings, off the rocks in our town. And so he was actually immersed in the feeling. I wonder if I can find this. I'll look for this. There's a section in this book. Now, I hope you guys are here. I found it. How about that? I found that when the Bible was created, and I mean the canonized Bible was created, it was a number of books that were compiled and a number of books that were left out as they were creating the canonized version of the Bible by the Council of Nicaea, back some hundreds of years, well, almost 2,000 years ago, about 1,500 years ago, 1,700 years ago. In any event, when they did this, they were not only taking information out, they were also compiling it and creating translations of it, and as well creating different context when they would modify it to simplify it. And so one word can make a huge difference in the meaning of something if you don't have the higher intelligence. And so they were taking a huge risk when they were making these modifications, because they could have very well changed the meaning and definition of things. And I'll give you an example. Most of us are familiar with the King James version of the saying, "Ask and you shall receive." How many of you have heard that one, right? And so it's here in the let's see. This is the King James version of the Bible. Reads, "Whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name, and ye shall receive. Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full." So this is directly out of King James version. Perfect, excellent. Now, when you compare this to the original text as translated today, and I mean the original text meaning the Aramaic, and how do we even have such a version? Because those versions were just rediscovered in many different forms. One of which was the Dead Sea Scrolls and the I forget they called it, the Hagmad Library or something like that. Anyway, when they looked at the translation without changing the words, without reshaping the words to simplify them in any way, shape, or form, it says this: all things that you ask straightly, directly, from inside my name, you will be given. So far, you have not done this. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. Well, that sounds a little bit different to me than asking you shall receive. These instructions tell me that I need to ask without hidden motive, which means without pleading, without begging, without some kind of an emotion attached to it, other than to be enveloped by what I desire, that your gladness be full. Gladness. So I should be glad and I should be full and enveloped in the idea of what I have, what I desire. That sounds an awful lot like I should feel like the desire has been fulfilled, which then correlates to the earlier quote from Jesus, which is, "Whatsoever you ask for and pray for, ask as though you have received them, you shall receive them." So the idea then, the instructions, can you imagine if the Bible is nothing but a coded instruction manual for all of us, and the instructions have somehow been deconstructed to the point where we've lost the sense and purpose and meaning of some of these words? It's no wonder when people pray they don't get, and they lose faith, because they're not praying in the manner in which you're supposed to pray, which is you don't pray for something, holding the vibration and the spirit of that thing as if it's not in existence. You should be grateful and fulfilled and enveloped in the feeling of the fact that it is the wish fulfilled, and therefore it will be given unto you. The idea of pray rain and not pray for rain. So when he was in there in that idea, by the way, that story ends with rain. So this drought ended that night with more rain than they even expected, that they could even handle the overflow or flooding and so forth. So the idea of pray rain and not pray for rain is the concept of, if you're not holding in your feeling, which is conscious awareness of vibration, what you're feeling, if you're not feeling the wish fulfilled, the desire fulfilled, you're not praying correctly. In fact, you may be thwarting the manifestation of that prayer altogether when you're praying for it as if it doesn't exist, as if it's still something that needs to come into fruition. So it's a violation of the law, most of which I think actually happens, and why so many people have lost faith in the words, because they have been taught incorrectly. Something has been lost in translation, quite literally, and therefore they're not able to manifest according to the books, according to the laws that have been taught. And so people have lost faith and they don't apply the law with any regularity. And if they do, they're doing it out of blind faith, which means they're not doing it correctly. And when they're not seeing the results, they chalk it up to some kind of a divine will that has superimposed its will on you, that you're not rightfully do what you've asked for, which is ridiculous. So the notion, why I bring this up in the context of a business discussion, is because, like I said, I can give you the perfect words. We can write the perfect script for what to say to somebody to create interest, to attract attention, and so on and so forth. That perfect script in the hands of somebody who is praying for success is not going to have the same results as the perfect script in the hands of somebody who is praying success. That's the difference between those people who have inadvertently become very successful and those who struggle to be successful, even though they're given the same tools, they're given the same opportunity, they're given the same everything. What makes the difference between those who achieve success and those who don't? Some people have chalked it up to the word luck. Luck. They were lucky, or they got in at the right time, and so forth. These are words, these are inventions of our own to describe the effects of a cause we do not understand. But I believe there is an understanding. I believe that understanding goes back to the ancients, and that it's been a misunderstanding that has been the culprit in the way success has been distributed among those in an opportunity of equal space. Truly, if network marketing and NICAN is not an equal playing field, then what is? Right? Would you agree with that statement? That it really is an equal opportunity playing field. We have the same product, we have the same opportunity, we have the same marketplace, we have all that we need, and yet what is it that separates those who are achieving success right now? There are people actually having success right here, right now, and those who are struggling to succeed. What are you in the habit of doing? You're in the habit of struggling. Why? What is the condition under which you are acknowledging struggle? Why does it have to be a struggle? Why can't it come effortlessly? What is the magic? And maybe it's just simply what I've been talking about, what Greg Braden is talking about, what one of my favorite authors, Neville, is talking about, what Jesus was talking about, what all of them, what Bob Proctor is talking about. It seems to me they're all saying the same thing. They say it a little differently, but at the end of the day, they're saying the same thing. And they're saying, you've got to look to yourself. But most people are saying, well, I don't know what that means. Can you give me a direct translation, a literal translation? Yeah, it's really simple. What if? Feeling is prayer. In other words, it doesn't matter what you're saying with your lips. It's what you're feeling when you're saying it that's actually creating the effect. And if you don't like the effect, look at the effect, the result, as an indicator. Say, okay, there's an indicator here. It's like, okay, the gas tank is empty. It's an indicator. I shouldn't feel bad about my car. I shouldn't feel bad about my driving. The gas tank is empty. I just got to fill the gas tank if I want to keep going. So rather than taking it personally, rather than being destructive about it, or inflicting wounds on ourself and our ego and our psyche, why don't we just say, okay, the gas tank, the gauge is telling me the gas tank is empty. I need to fill the tank. In this case, the results are telling me I need to modify something. That I can learn to do. And so as we modify that internal dialogue, the prayer, not for something, the prayer fulfilled, the feeling of the prayer fulfilled. And if it's a successful NICAN business, what does it feel like? Like, how often do you spend, consider this, today was a day in your life of building your NICAN business and your life. How much of that day was spent in the feeling of success? How much of that day was, by the way, this interesting thing about the science behind this prayer when they prayed peace, the statistics fell dramatically. I mean, it was unbelievable, 70% reduction in crime rate and so forth, emergency rate, collisions, car collisions and so forth when they prayed peace. When they stopped, it reverted back. And in some cases, even worse. How come? How come? Is it possible that when we stop praying, it reverts back? So is prayer something you do for 5 minutes? Is prayer something you do for a few minutes of the day, in the morning, when you go to sleep at night? Or is prayer a state, a condition that you are in throughout the day? That's a really important question, because you can pray for a minute or two, and if you do it the traditional way, Our Father who art in heaven, and you say the words, you might have great intentions behind those words, but what are you exactly praying for? Is it a petition to God to provide something for you? Or are you surrounding yourself, enveloping yourself with the wish fulfilled, with the desire fulfilled, with the feeling of the abundance that would come from the wish fulfilled, the gratitude that would come from the wish fulfilled? How much of your day is actually in that state? Consider this. I'm serious about this. How much of your day do you actually feel that feeling of the wish fulfilled and the state of grace or gratitude because of it? I have another example. When you worry about something, and you even elaborate that to someone else. I worry about this. I'm worried about this. I'm concerned about this. Maybe a very real concern, but what you're giving energy and attention to, and in this moment, is prayer of another kind. It's still prayer, if we define prayer as the feeling, but now the feeling that you're giving is what? Is it based in love or fear?
Fear.
So now you're praying using the same power, invoking the same power, only now that power is being used in a way that's creating an outcome that is not desirable. I like what Neville says, prayer or worry is a dress rehearsal for something you don't want to happen. So when we catch ourselves, which is really the art of maturing ourselves as leaders, is catching ourselves when we're thinking thoughts and feeling feelings that are not consistent, not in alignment with, not in harmony with the desired outcome. As we get better at catching ourselves, we become more proficient at attracting what we're looking for, what we're desiring. And so really, if you look at successful people we admire and respect, you'll find you'll always admire what they have to say. You'll always admire the way they present themselves and so forth, because they've honed that about themselves. They become self-aware, self-actualized, where they've heard themselves say things, and they've started to catch themselves, and to the point where they correct themselves before it even comes out of them. They spend more time in the feeling and the vibration of gratitude and success than they do in worry and doubt and fear. And so, to them that have, more will be given unto them. You see, you understand that all these beautiful expressions that are biblical in nature, that are expressions of truths, they have real meaning. They have real purpose when you put them in the right context. They're not just nice sayings. They're expressions of laws that are applicable today as they were when they were first written. And it's just an understanding of those laws and how we actually apply them in our life, which is really the key here to success. So I guess the point that I wanted to make and embellish is feeling is the prayer. Whatever you're feeling, whenever you're feeling it, is a prayer. You're putting it out. You're creating it. And the effect of that, by the law of reciprocity, the law of the place we live in, it's very real. So shall you sow, so shall you reap. As above, so below. These are all expressions of the law. It doesn't say, well, we'll let you off the hook on that one. I know you didn't really mean it. It doesn't work that way. It's just a perfect mirror. And it's constantly mirroring, expressing back to us what it is that we're in the feeling vibration of. So feeling is the prayer. Words are not the prayer. Feeling is the prayer. And if the words allow you to feel something, I want you to think about it. I don't know how many of you do your prayers on a regular basis, but the next time you actually go to do a prayer, I want you to do one line at a time and ask yourself how you feel about what you just said. Like, connect to the feeling that line makes you feel. Because sometimes I was born Roman Catholic. Man, we're so good at that. We're so good at the words. I just had a baptism this Sunday, and I loved the priest. He was fantastic. He was a guy who was full of expression and really went out of his way to tell you what he was talking about. He didn't just use words. He was like trying to explain what this word was. Why was this true? Why was this relevant and so forth? I loved it. I love the fact that he took the time to educate people on why he was saying what he was saying, rather than just going through the ritual, which most people just go through rituals. And then they wonder why things don't really happen. And they lose faith. So next time you do a little prayer for yourself, even if it's tonight, feel what those words are making you feel. Like, hear the words in your mind or when you say it out loud. What does this make me feel? What's the feeling I feel when I say that? And then it might surprise you that, wow, what if that's the feeling I'm supposed to be having? That's why that prayer was written this way. I'm supposed to feel this way. This feeling of, maybe it's reverence, maybe it's peace, maybe it's comfort. Well, if you're feeling those feelings and the universe mirrors your feelings, what are you going to experience? The effect, the mirror. So here we are, building a business. What does this have to do with business? Well, I don't know if you can make a distinction between business and relationship, or business and family, or any other desire that you have in your life. The law is the law. It doesn't care how you apply it or where you're applying it. It's just the law. So I think if we want to experience abundance, we want to see the cash overflowing in our lives. Nikan is a vehicle for which that can be true. But like all possibilities, if you're not feeling the feeling of abundance, if you're not feeling the feeling of attraction, if you're not feeling the feeling of having a huge organization, if you're not feeling the feeling, again, let me read you the quote. Some of you joined a little bit late. This is worth rereading. So this is the quote from the Bible, only it was unadulterated. It's a translation from Aramaic, and it's the unadulterated version, which is very different than the canonized version, which came from the St. James translation, which were translations of ancient manuscripts. And so this came from the Essenes over 2,000 years ago, and it says here, so the original translation, or the one that we're most familiar with, King James Version, whatsoever ye ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask and ye shall receive, that your joy may be full. So that's our version that we in the West are familiar with, right? And yet when we compare this to the original text, we see that the key is missing. And here's the original text. All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. So far, which is really important, from inside my name. How do you ask for something inside my name? So you must be in the spirit of, in the vibration of, right? From what you ask from inside my name, you'll be given. So far, you have not done this. He's telling them, you haven't done this. So you shouldn't be surprised that you're not making things happen. Then he says, ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. So ask without hidden motive. Without hidden motive. What would be a hidden motive? A doubt would be a hidden motive. Anxiety would be a hidden motive. The lack, the feeling of lack or despair or fear, those are all hidden motives. So what would be how would you ask if it wasn't a hidden motive? Personal gain, yeah, there was one from Maggie. So what's a hidden motive? So if it's not a hidden motive, if it's just an open heart, nothing hidden, no judgment, ask without judgment and be surrounded by your answer. So the answer, meaning whatever it is that you're asking for, you're receiving the answer. Ask and be surrounded by the answer. Wow, that's amazing. be enveloped, but by what you desire, that your gladness be full. Gladness, gratefulness, gladness be full, be enveloped by what you desire. So what does it feel like to be enveloped by what you desire? You see, that tells me today in 2018 something very different than just ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive is a very abbreviated version of these instructions. And it's very easy to get it wrong. Very easy to get it wrong. And then when you don't receive because you got it wrong, you question the words, asking it, and you shall receive. You start to question, you start to doubt your faith, and you doubt the process, you doubt the law. So is it a wonder why so many people have become lost? Not at all. So what we have here is the true power of prayer, which is to be immersed in, surrounded by the wish fulfilled, the desire fulfilled. Feeling is the prayer. So how do we go about our business when you pick up the phone to make a call to contact somebody? When you go about your daily life hoping and expecting to run into people, when you put an ad out on the internet or you post something, what's going with that? What's the energy going with that? What is the prayer that you're in that's going with that? Are you submitting something with the feeling of the wish fulfilled? Or are you submitting something with doubt, fear, agenda, hidden motive? I don't know if I'm deserving, all those things. Think about it. If the instructions that we're reading here are literal and are meant to be taken literally, then why would we be surprised at our results? In fact, don't they explain it? Do we not have now finally confirmation that, oh my God, I actually have the ability to change these results because I've been the one who's making them? I think that's a very liberating feeling, to know that I have the tools within me to change the results in my life, beginning with an understanding of what creates the results in my life. And it's not the actions, although everything is followed by action. Again, I can say the words, I love my Niken business. It's so fantastic. You should join. It's the best business in the world. I could say the things, I can do the action, but if I don't have the feeling, you can see the actions are going to have no effect in the positive. So we've got to get those feelings aligned so that our thoughts invoke a feeling. The feeling combined with our actions are in alignment. And so the result is simply the mirror. So what do you want to have mirrored back to you? I mean, I think this is worth taking some time to write down some words of feelings, the kind of feelings that you want to have every day. And then I would even go as far as to say, experiment with it. Like, just try it on for size. And there's something that I know we can all be grateful for. We can all be grateful for what we have. If you're stretching, if you want to stretch and you want to like really connect with some real genuine gratitude, I want to reconnect with, what's the feeling of gratitude? I forgot. How do I connect to that? Well, to really connect to it, like really honestly own it, can you find something in your life that you're genuinely grateful for? Like even the fact that you have an opportunity. The things that you have. I'm looking at your library back there, Al and Sandra, and saying, look at all those books back there. I would be grateful for the fact that I have all those books. I've had those books. I have those books. I can pick up and read those books anytime. There's something to be grateful for. You have a house. You have relationships. You have friendships. You have whatever you have. Find something that you can hone in on, that you can say, I'm really grateful for this, and get into the feeling of it. Let the feeling immerse you. What was the words that they used? You want the feeling to surround you so that your gladness be enveloped by what you desire, so your gladness be full. So If you can really immerse yourself in like a sponge and absorb that feeling so that you can actually feel it in every cell of your being. I've been practicing this with power and strength physically because I've had a little bit of a challenge recently, a little bit of the traveling, all the stuff that I've been doing. I got hit. I thought, okay, perfect. This is the universe saying, you're ready, Mike, to put it to the test. That's how I look at it. I look at things that come my way as me setting myself up to prove again to myself, this is real. So I go through this little thing in my mind, or I get in touch with a feeling of power and strength in my body. And oh my God, it just flows through all my veins. I feel like getting up and throwing a football or something. It just, I swear to God, you just feel it intensely. So when you do that, and you feel that, and you feel the feeling of that coursing through your veins, it's like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. When it can be so real to you that you feel it in every ounce of your being. Try gratitude as one. That's a huge one because that's the state of being that allows everything to flow to you effortlessly. And you will find people, and I'm telling you, I'm not kidding, you will find animals attracted to you. You will find infants attracted to you. They will, I'm not kidding, you will experience, I'm certain, what I've experienced. You will start to see those effects and you'll start saying to yourself, wow, this is really what it looks like. It just simply mirrors back to you the feeling that you're in. So how could that impact you when you make your phone calls? How could that impact you when you're doing demos? How can that impact you when you're doing ABCs? How can that impact you when you're making a list? How can that impact you when you're out and about doing your business, you're shopping or whatever, meeting people? If you made a conscious effort, as you know, we tell people, hey, make a goal, hey, make a list. We tell people these are things you have to do. Well, what if one of the have-tos every day of your life is to set yourself up vibrationally? Well, that was a have-to. I have to do this because this is the way it works. This is my prime directive, is to get that part of my life in alignment, and then the rest of the day is just going through the motions, experiencing the mirror. So I know I've taken all this time to download all this to you, but I'm really passionate about what I've been drawing to myself in terms of secrets and sacred knowledge. I'm reading another book that affirms this. This is a little bit more intense. This goes back to Tibet. And I just think that as I analyze, as an analyst I do, why some people are successful given the same conditions and others are not, what is the ultimate distinction? It's not the environment they're in. It's not the circumstances they're in because they're creating those. It's not the external, it's the internal condition. So if we're not working on the internal condition as diligently as we are on the external, we're missing the most important part of the equation, intention, not mechanism. And so many of us have got bogged down in mechanism. Got to improve the mechanism. No, I'm sorry. All the mechanisms in the world mean nothing if the intention isn't aligned. We know that if you've done HBM, that's one of the laws, sort of a reiteration or restatement of the law of attraction, which I think is the better name for this law should be the law of assumption. When you assume, when you are enveloped in the expression of your desire fulfilled, you're now assuming the desire fulfilled. That assumption has power, creates feeling, vibration, and that then will be mirrored back to us. Any thoughts as we wrap up this call? Yeah, Suzanne, I see your hand.
I have a few. One is for people who are not quite ready to go read the Tibet book, a couple books that are probably a little easier to handle. One from Neville that I've mentioned on other calls is Feeling is the Secret. It's a short one. I have it on Audible, so I can listen to it multiple times. It's only like 30 minutes long, so great. Lynn Grabhorn, is another great one because she talks about pre-paving, which I like to think about when I'm going to do something to pre-pave what I want the outcome to be and to feel. And, saying thank you, thank you before the day, then that puts you at a higher level. But I also want to share an experience for this weekend, which I think is pretty powerful. Some of you may know that I was holding an event with the Dr. Jim Oshman, who is world-renowned in the earthing realm. And lo and behold, Dr. Oshman ended up having an eye appointment that lasted a lot longer than expected. So he never came to my event. Now, I did not sing, nor did I dance, but I continued to have the event go on. And one of the people at the end said to me, the best part of the event was just the way you continued to have that positive outlook on what this event was going to be. And that really meant a lot, that I didn't go into that negative state. I just knew that things were all going to work out. And we had some amazing experiences with that incredible new product. And we had someone just share a testimony over the phone who's Native American, and her story connecting us with Mother Earth was incredibly powerful. So the event was created in an amazing way, just differently than what I envisioned, but it was still a powerful thing.
Fantastic.
Well, I'd like to comment. Suzanne and I have been close for the 20 and a half years. We met in my first year. And for those of you that don't know Suzanne, you need to follow her on her YouTube channel. Michael, you may not know what she's been doing either, but she puts an affirmation out every day. She has been practicing this. She has her team doing the I Can course. And so she exudes that. And there was no surprise to me at all, Suzanne. And I think you've been a blessing to this group and a perfect example.
Fantastic. Hey, I just want to shout out to Gary Bolton, who's on the line, who was a nominee this year for the Humans Being More Awards. So thanks for joining us, Gary.
Well, Michael, this weekend, Gary, and we have Hisana, we have Gary Starr over here. Starr is Gary's wife's name, and Hisana are on this evening. And just watching the expressions on their faces and others that were present for Gary Bolton, his presentation was the essence of what you just shared, Michael. His story was the essence of what you just shared. And I want to congratulate Gary publicly.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Gosh, can you guys imagine what's going to happen? What's happening in this realm of Nikken? What is, just two or more gathered in my name. Wow. We get the vibe together on this. Things can just happen like lightning. That is awesome. Anyone else? Okay. Well, I'm showing let's see, what is it? Yeah, 9:45. Usually wrap up right about now. So I would like to say thank you for everyone joining tonight's call. If you found this call was useful, the recording of it will be uploaded onto our channel. I'll make sure the Launch Partners gets a copy of it and share it or just review it, because and if you haven't gotten a copy of this book, again, Greg Braden's Secrets of the Lost Mode of Prayer, you can listen to his stuff. He does a lot online on YouTube. So a lot of what he's talking about, whether it's in written form or YouTube form, is there. The thing I do like about and appreciate most about Greg Braden and as well Neville is their reference point is the Bible in so many ways. It's the traditions of the ancients, as he refers to it, because they have origins, these things. And these things in many ways predate some of the stuff that we our known history. There's some ancient history that is unknown to us, but these ancient traditions, these truths that find their ways throughout time to the rarest of places in the world, seem to have threads, and their threads are consistent when they say there are laws that make this universe function, and we are part of it and expressions of it and abide by it. Only we have the gift of having the higher consciousness. We can alter our environment. We have dominion over the life of all other creatures and life forms on this planet, which means we have a tremendous responsibility to learn how to apply these truths and these laws. So, I'm fortunate that I have the interest and the time to delve into some of this work. And I encourage you to take whatever time you can, even if it's just a few minutes a day, to resource some of this information. Because while we can give you the how-tos of building a successful network marketing business, while we can give you the greatest tools, while Nika can provide you with the landscape of the greatest opportunity, it's going to fall short if it falls into the hands of somebody who doesn't understand that they're the power to make it go or make it go away. So you are that power, and learning to harness the strength within you, the power within you to create, will allow you to take those tools and resources to a level that is yet to be experienced for yourself. So,
Michael, your original, The Faith of a Mustard Seed, when you were younger, but you were saying everything in the same way, but a little bit differently today. I think at the vibrational level, maybe that's because of where I am today. Is that not on your YouTube channel, or is it on where?
Yeah, I think so. Probably on my YouTube channel, Faith of a Mustard Seed. And the reason I love that expression, obviously, it's a biblical reference, because a mustard seed is so tiny, and yet if you had but the faith of that mustard seed, that little bit of faith, if we understand what faith really is, then we could say to the mountain, move, and the mountain would move. By the way, he quotes that actual phraseology from the Aramaic in this book of the notion of being able to say to that mountain, move, and it'll move. And it comes right back down to what is faith? How would you know if you were? I wrote something down. I'll leave you with this thought. We'll call it a Mike DiMuccioism. All right. So faith demonstrated is the alignment of thoughts, feelings, and actions when the three become one. That's a real demonstration of faith.
And it's what's missing. It's what we've lost a bit of in the world today, which relates back to the peace that you've spoken about. So our internal peace of what we can be able to share individually and collectively. And I want to thank you again for this mastermind team on that healthy mind pillar, and how critical that healthy mind pillar is, and being able to have these kinds of align with successes, what you just said, align.
Well, thank you. Here's the homework. Take some of this information and apply it. Like, do some real actual application. Anything that I may have said today that you can take and do something with this week. Next week, I'd like to use the time on this call to get some feedback from you as to what you may have experienced in your application.
Well, for those of us in the United States, it's Thanksgiving, so we can do a lot of.
My goodness! Oh my goodness! Now you got a real opportunity to put this to work. True, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody in the States.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Cheers.
Happy Thanksgiving.